Deep breath in. And sigh out.
Thank you, Meir. Great introduction to the podcast today. Welcome to Friends of Michaela, Meir Kay. It's great to have you.
Great to be here.
I'm very glad we were able to connect and meet in Israel. So Meir and I just got back from 10 days on a birthright trip, a new trip called Storytellers. And it was an incredible 10 days. We traveled throughout the country, learned a lot from Nova survivors. We also spoke to Palestinians for peace, had a lot of workshopping sessions to better be able to narrate our Jewish story. So it's only right that we're actually here today to be able to share our Jewish story. And Meir certainly has a really unique perspective on Judaism and his journey with himself through religion and making content, which you guys might recognize him from his YouTube channel. So a lot to dive into today. So Meir, yes, great to have you. Great to see you.
Yeah.
We'd love to start by you just sharing a little bit about yourself and kind of like where we're at today. Maybe you could tell us like where we even are right now.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks for having me. Right now we are in Florida. Just moved in about 2 hours ago into this apartment and really excited to be hosting this podcast here. Wow, what a journey it's been. I mean, just meeting you in Israel. It's where have I been? These past couple of years has been just it's an unbelievable journey. I mean, from 15 years ago, becoming a rabbi, then traveling the world, becoming a filmmaker, content creator for 10 years, like a year after YouTube opened up. I was already on YouTube and just making content. And over the past 3-4 years, I had this massive transition where I moved into this wellness space, this more spiritual embodied space where it's been interesting, where I grew up religious and then left that. But now I found myself perhaps being more spiritual than I've ever been before, connecting to my background and tradition and being Jewish and being proud of being Jewish in a very real and embodied way. I used to say, oh yeah, I'm Jewish, I'm proud of being Jewish. And I think I just I looked the part, but now it's like so deeply ingrained. It's like it's such a top priority and value in my life.
Yeah. And actually, I don't think you know this, but I met you very briefly in New York City, probably 5-6 years ago when I was living there. I remember you were running around the city doing like your YouTube videos, but you had a yarmulke on, You looked very religious. Obviously, you present a little bit more religious today, but a little like spiritual woo-woo. I don't know how I would describe you, but it's giving Moses Jesus. Like, we're not sure. We're not sure. But bun, you did not have the bun.
I did not have the bun back then. No, I did not have the bun. The bun sort of grew on me.
Yeah.
Get it? No, get it?
A good one.
Yeah.
Meir with the corny.
Listen, I'm not a dad yet, but I got the jokes.
Got the dad jokes.
It's a skula. It's a preparation for one day.
You're ready.
I want it.
So tell me more, like getting back to your childhood, like what did your upbringing look like when it came to being Jewish?
I grew up in a Chabad family, Chabad home, so Orthodox home, where I went to day school, Jewish day school. I went to yeshiva, kosher Shabbos, of course. But I also come from like a lineage of Chabad families that date back many, many years of rabbis and leaders in the Orthodox Jewish space. So I grew up. I was very steeped in it, singing the songs, the traditions, and it was one and the same. Being Jewish and being Chabad we were exposed to people who weren't Orthodox. But it was within me, it was all part of the same breath, God, religion, Judaism. There was like no difference in it all. And also there wasn't really much, at least for me growing up, wasn't much space to make it personal. It was very much this way is the way and the highway. And it was very hard for me because, as you can see, I'm a very colorful guy. And I think for myself, I like to push the barriers and ask questions. And so, it was hard for me to fit into that system, and that being said, there was so much beauty and so many of my friends today are from those days, and so it's very much steeped in myself. And we used to joke about like how you can't take you could take the chassid or you take the person out of like Crown Heights or Chabad, but you can't take Chabad out of the person. And like I really see that for myself, and I see that within my friends who are not religious today. There's still the twang, the way we speak, the relations, the warmth that we have towards Judaism and towards our traditions, the songs. Like, you could be the least religious person, but you hear a Chabad song go on, it's like it moves something within you. It just touches, you get the goosebumps. And I'm really grateful for that warmth that I still have today, and that ignites me and in my pursuit towards religion, God, and spirituality.
Yeah, and someone I would love for you to maybe like explain a little bit more about what it meant to be Chabad, because for someone like myself and maybe anyone listening, like I didn't grow up religious at all. We were talking about this before we started recording, was that I was never deeply connected to Judaism. And even like, unfortunately, like admitting this to everyone here is like, I don't feel like I even have like the knowledge from like being bat mitzvahed. And I really like just kind of disconnected. Once I was bat mitzvahed, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I don't need to go to Hebrew school anymore. I was bat mitzvahed. Like I did the thing, I'm out. And now since like being, you know, in my late 20s, post October 7th, I've been on my own like journey of finding like what Judaism really looks like for me. And I think that's what's beautiful about it is that, you know, similar to your story, you've taken things out of it that you love. You've maybe tried to distance yourself immensely in the beginning, but you found your way back in some capacity. So I'd love to just hear from you, like, what were those things that were kind of like, that you were questioning and really like understanding, like, is this really right for me?
Yeah, it felt, you know, there's, eventually I realized that there's spirituality and then there's religion and then there's also God. And not necessarily all of them are the same. Like not everything spiritual is holy. You know, not everything religious necessarily is connected to God. And so, but growing up, all of it is all one and the same. It's all put like this one mosh pit of this, it's all labeled, this is what God wants. And I think there's a really beautiful opportunity, for a person, every individual, man and woman, to decide, and to create that relationship with God. And so there's a beautiful framework that I got with Chabad, and Chabad, you know, many people may know Chabad from in the context of when they travel the world, there's always like a Chabad house or like a space where you can like go for a Friday night dinner and like connect with other Jews in foreign places. And like, that's definitely a big part of it. And that was like a massive vision that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Chabad Rebbe had, you know, and established. And now there's over 5,000 branches. Like imagine any type of like company having 5,000 branches around the world. Like it's insane. It's huge. Yeah. And so, but within that, there's also a beautiful, Chabad also has a beautiful outreach program. Like there's a bit more of a warmth I grew up in where it wasn't so insular. Like, yes, there was like certain traditions and certain like ways of like, okay, as Chabad person, this is how we live our life. But the big ethos around it is also about being Chabad is that the welcoming, the warmth, like no matter what kind of Jew you are, no matter what kind of person you are, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the leader of this movement, was very welcoming and very warm and as spoken towards v'ahavta kamocha, loving your fellow as yourself. So that's a very deep principle within the Chabad framework. And at the same time, there's also, unfortunately, a deep, separation between like the warmth that they have for the outside and then the warmth that they have internally. So if you're a Chabad person and start growing up and you're not necessarily on the path, it's gotten a lot better since over the past 10 years, I would say. But it was very like, you know, hey, we're very warm to the person who's religious around the Shabbos table, but if you don't want to keep Shabbos or if you have questions around it, there's a bit of a distance and a coldness and a less of a lack of patience around that journey of someone who's coming from the inside. And that unfortunately turns off a lot of people from Chabad who have those questions, and more so in the world that we're growing up with, especially with Gen Z and, you know, with technology and the distractions that we have in this day and age, and the more information. I think the capacity for compassion, for curiosity, internally within Chabad needs to grow for the movement to really grow and to yes, bring in people in, but also not lose people on the way out.
I think that answers part of it, but I think what I'm kind of leaning towards is like, what really were you struggling with, like resonating with when it comes to?
Of course, I've avoided the question. We want to get personal.
Yeah.
So where did I struggle with? Where I struggled with personally was, it was just like I was a very, very creative guy and also needed a lot of movement, maybe undiagnosed ADHD perhaps, but I always like needed action and like this was always moving around. I was, waking up 7 o'clock in the morning, ending 9 o'clock at night, 12 hours a day of just like studying, Torah, halacha, Kabbalah, Chassidus. It's very hard for me, and so it was just hard to stay in that type of system, A. And then B, what I started to realize as I got into my mid-20s was that I had like all the words and the knowledge around Judaism and God and Kabbalah, you could say, lack of a better word. But it was voided of like embodiment and like and understanding it, like truly it was like, yes, I understood it, I was going through the motions, but my soul still felt my internal self felt very empty, even though I had the answers, and I was able to give those answers out to someone who wasn't religious per se, and like and blow their minds and make them feel a sense of connection to to Judaism and God, but internally there was a void that took place, and within that void, that started to become like very painful and uncomfortable within myself. So it's not like I was dying to have a cheeseburger or like needed to like turn the lights on Shabbos. Like that wasn't like my desire to like do that. But it started to manifest in certain ways that weren't part of the tradition, because there was a sort of a crying out that was happening. And I don't think that was being picked up on the community or the people around me. And so I just started to try things on my own, and like trial and error. And that's what started happening. I think it was the lack of connection to God. Even though it was promised that in religion, it was lacking in the way it was brought up.
Yeah, lots to unpack there, Meir. Well, when did you, I guess, like first start having these feelings? Because you mentioned like in your mid-20s, you started to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it started to really resonate and like start to realize there was an issue in my mid-20s. I mean, I was, growing up, I would always like toe the line and like dress, just like in ways to rebel, right? It was like wearing, not just a white shirt and black pants, but like wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and starting to like, trim my beard, and like, which is like a big, deal in Chabad, not to like touch the beard, and just like sort of like push the boundaries in certain ways and see how far I could push them and see how it would feel internally. Like, ooh, did that feel okay? Did it not? Will I be smitten by God or not? Like, what's that going to look like? And just over time, as I got more agency over my own life, and like, moved away from, I graduated from yeshiva and lived on my own in my own city. Then it was like, okay, like how do I want to be? What do I want to do? And then I started traveling the world. And when I started traveling the world by myself, solo, it gave me more space to like really try new things on for size. And as I did that, it brought more questions than answers. And it took everything I got to decide to go on that road. That I think a lot of courage to go ahead and say no to my upbringing, or say no to that structure, and to just demolish it, and then to build up from the ashes. And even now, like, as I become more spiritual, I want to say I've gone back to any type of way of being. I think I'm really, the idea of moving forward. I move forward, and it may look a certain way. Maybe I speak a certain way that may resonate towards people who are still religious, but it's coming from a whole different place. It's coming from a place of like choice, of agency, of understanding why. And I think there's also a lot of I think people could relate to, is that, especially if you grew up Chabad or any type of Hasidic background, that there's that much explanation. Like there's so much, like, the spiritual embodiment is separate from the actions that we take. Like so many people like have forgotten, I think, that we are that we're tribal, like we're tribes. Yeah. And like we're like shaking a lulav and like smelling this esrog, and like we're in this hut and we're blowing from a ram's horn, and yet we're we're in synagogue, and like we're wearing like these suits, and it's like can we it doesn't really add up. And like, I think a lot of the religious structure wants to forget that, like that messiness, that the primal part of being Jewish. We used to slay animals. There was blood splitting everywhere. Sorry for my vegan friends, but like it's true, and we were like, and not necessarily we have to throw away our electronics, and we get to be of this age and be of this world. And at the same time, I think there's a bit of a fear and like a disconnection between where we come from and our roots. So I'm passionate and I'm excited about combining the ancient wisdom and our ways of where we come from, not just the past 200, 150 years of like, and 300 years of like Russia and like, and Eastern Europe. But I'm talking like going back to 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and I'm excited about that, and that embodiment and the ancient Judaism that's not so ancient. It's still here today that we get to choose to be a part of.
Did you find yourself? I'm laughing because there's just so many questions I have for you. So little time, Meir, and what you're open to sharing. But
yeah, I'm here for it.
When you were like going through that process in your 20s, did you feel like shame from family, from the community? Like, how alone were you in that process?
Yeah, I felt very misunderstood. I think it's very hard to be understood in any point in one's life, but I felt like I was very misunderstood. I had friends who were on their own journey, and at a much younger age than I, decided to choose their own path. And I could like never, at 16, 18, 21, like, oh my God, they're doing their own thing. And so I held on or like looked the part for a lot longer. And with that came also like more compound pain and, discomfort. But as I moved along, I wasn't understood. I felt alone. It was hard to make those certain choices, especially once I started, allowing my insides to reflect my outsides to reflect my insides, the way I dressed, the way I looked, the man bun. But I do give so much credit to like my folks. My parents have been like superly incredible to yes, they've like expressed their desire for a way of life for me, but at the same time, always been there and had questions and never threw me out, and really, really allowed themselves to stretch and to ask themselves their own questions, like what's the most important, when it comes to family, to children, to love, which I knowing other friends of mine, their realities of like not having that type of love and support, I don't take it for granted. Yeah. And so I felt very much loved by my siblings, by my parents, by friends, religious or not, who maybe didn't, live the same lifestyle as I did or ask the same questions as I did, but were there for me nonetheless. And then along the way, I got feedback from friends and family who disagreed and pushed back and challenged and mocked at and cynical, and that's painful. That's part of life, and we get to do that as individuals, as grown-ups, and I think it was a big initiation for me, and I wouldn't have had any other way, because without it, I wouldn't have gone to a place where I have like a true deep connection with Hashem and pray the way I do and connect the way I do, and which is only going to evolve. And like this podcast will be outdated in 5 years because, I'll be having a different type of connection. And I hope it only continues to grow and deepen throughout my life.
Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about like being able to record things like this. Is I was listening to a podcast of yours that you did, I think 3 years ago, and you said something similar, like in 5 years, like it looks different, and I may not appear the same, or I may be doing something completely different. Like we have so many different times where we can reinvent ourselves, especially when it comes to Judaism and our relationship with God and spirituality and really what that means within our sect of religion. So I think that's what's really beautiful just about life.
Yeah.
And you've been in so many different eras yourself. So I think, transitioning from your upbringing and childhood, I want to know more about like YouTubing and how you got into filmmaking, because I can assume or maybe infer that that's not maybe the most traditional career path for someone in raised Chabad. Right.
No, it's definitely not. And also, I mean, now it's more popular than ever. Now, like every mom and rabbi has a YouTube and an IG and crushing it. When I started about 10 years ago, maybe more, it was very new and very different. And I got a lot of pushback for it, especially for the kind of content I was making. It was like, it was edgy for a Chabad, I guess, or Orthodox background, high-fiving women and throwing DJ dance parties on the subway and, homeless makeovers and stuff like that. So it was, but if you see the thread, it's very much part of me. Like I grew up in a very open home and in a community that was all about love and outreach. And so it was like no question that the content I was going to make wasn't going to be just about pranks, and like making fun of people. It was going to be about like making the world a better place. Cause like that's the mission, and that's always been part of who I am, whether I'm making YouTube videos or running retreats. But so I think I've always was the outlier, and I always feel proud of like being a trailblazer in those ways where like I always like push the envelope. And so back then there were people who were fans of it, people who weren't, people who were fans of it but weren't,
secret fans.
Secret fans, you know what I mean?
Closeted.
Like, by the way, I have a second phone that's not kosher that I'm able to see YouTube on, and I love your stuff, So it's cool, but I think I'm grateful that I always I followed what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to create content. I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I always loved to act, and so I did that.
What was your expectation, like growing up Chabad? Like, what did your parents want you to be?
It's a good question. Happy. They always want me to be happy. They always say that. They want me to be happy.
Yeah.
And which is not always the case. Some parents say they want that, but they want, some other things, and even though it may not make the kid happy, but their parents are going to be happy. But we do graduate as rabbis, and I think there's the idea of becoming a rabbi, a practicing rabbi, having an outreach, having your own community somewhere in the world. That's slowed down a bit, but
so that is the ultimate goal.
It has been for many, many years. It's changed a lot where it's like, you don't just have to become like a practicing rabbi, but, graduate becoming a rabbi, but also like, have like an Orthodox home, and like raise your kids in that way, in the Chabad way. And, yeah. So it's getting more and more common that Chabad people and Orthodox people going to college, getting degrees. A lot of my friends have done that. A lot of my friends haven't, but they run their own businesses, and like being a business person, that's one of the questions you actually get on dating. It's like, do you want to go on shluchas or not? Like that's like a big defining factor. Like
what does that mean?
Shluchas mean, do you want to go out? Like, do you want to dedicate your life and go and do outreach and like, open up your own community or work for a rabbi or not? Like that's a defining. And you will share that with the matchmaker beforehand. If you're going to go out with this man or woman, like if you want to go and do outreach for your life, and like she doesn't, then it's not, why even go out? Right, exactly.
Were you expected to marry at a really young age? Were you married?
Whoa.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. I've never been married, no, but I have gone on like arranged dates in my early 20s. Am I supposed to? I mean, I think the trajectory was to be married and have a couple kids by now. And that's not uncommon to get married as a guy, between 21 and 24.
Yeah.
Once you hit that 25 mark, you're already older, you know.
We're well beyond those years.
I'm way beyond.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends who are grandparents. No, I'm kidding, not almost. But I got friends who have they have a son who's like turning bat mitzvah. You know, it's pretty amazing.
You can have a 12-year-old.
I could have a 20-year-old, and honestly, you know, and I wasn't ready back then, and thank God I listened to my heart, and thank God I listened to my intuition, because, I mean, who knows? But like, I definitely know that I wasn't ready in my 20s to have children. Yeah. And for others, that's their, and it is good for them. But I'm ready though. Thank God, I'm ready.
Now you're ready.
I'm ready. Putting the beacon out. I'm ready, and I'm excited.
Feeling
for it.
grounded now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, totally. More and more so every day.
Okay, so you were doing content, making a lot of videos on YouTube. You gained a huge following on YouTube. People still recognize you to this day, I feel like, from your YouTube following as well. Yeah. So what kind of changed in your mid-20s when you were, or maybe it was your late 20s, like going from a content creator to doing what you're doing now, which I'd love for you to share with everyone.
Yeah, you know, there's that saying that religion is for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for those people who've been there. And I feel that I went to the depths of some really dark places internally, and lack of spirituality, lack of having direction in my life was really, really intense. And so I really hit like a rock bottom, you could say. And from there, what's really positive about that is you have a space to grow from, you know, and okay, this is it. I'm here at the bottom of the ocean. Now I get to like slowly build from here and swim back up. And so finding myself using different modalities to connect with spirit, with Hashem, with God, with Creator. Actually, for many years, I couldn't even say the word God or even Hashem. You know, it's too triggering. It would bring me back to like this, to this abandonment. Like, what God? What are you talking about? Like, you know, and this fearful, vengeful God. Like, it didn't connect with me well. So I just avoided that. I used other terminologies. Thank God today I built a relationship with God, which is not a vengeful God, but we can talk more about that soon. So I hit this rock bottom, and then how did I get out of that was using different modalities, the modalities I use today on my retreats and workshops, that to help me like connect, to get into my body, to be less cerebral and to be more present. And the more I use these different tools, it brought me closer and closer to myself. It helped me be able to like remove the fog and remove the anger, remove the pain. And what was left was this beautiful heart, soul that was never always there, this little child that felt abandoned. And so through those processes, it only got me more excited to like, oh my God, these are so amazing. These tools are so incredible. I want to share them with friends, family, and community who may be feeling similar or different ways, to help them connect, whether they're in extreme pain or whether they want to have a deeper connection with God or their family, have more success in their business. Like all these tools are able to do that. And so, and it doesn't go against, or it's not opposite. It only supports the religious aspect of life.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is a lot of people confuse spirituality with like being something like the universe, and that's different from God. But what you're saying is that you can still, it's all
intertwined. Yeah, it's all intertwined. And I think it only deepens that relationship. It brings more sense to religion as a technology. You know, just like, you know, it's a framework and a vehicle, a chariot, which we could ride and utilize to build connection with God. You know, if the religion itself becomes the idol worship, then we're just worshiping another idol. You know, religion can become a way of avoiding God and our families, you know, and our responsibilities too. So it really, all these beautiful technology that we have that have been passed on for thousands of years from rabbis and sages and rebbitzins, are beautiful ways in which we get to connect with God. But if we're not using it to really deepen and to be true to ourselves, and really see like where we may be lacking, like if you're still like you're doing being a religious Jew, but you're an asshole to the to the homeless person or to your children, or avoiding taxes, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like then like what's it all for really? Like to check off boxes? Like are you truly happy? Like
Did
so
you see a lot of that within the Chabad community? Like people kind of going against the community in their own ways?
I think
deceitful?
I just saw humanity, whether it's Chabad or Hasidic or modern, like it doesn't really, I think there's the humanity and as humans, of course, nothing will be perfect. But also we're so thriving, we're so thirsty, whether we know or not, for connection, for framework. And it's a wild world we live in, it's a wild world, especially this day and age. They say the Jews of the time of Moses, of Moshe Rabbeinu, times of those who got the Torah, would have a very difficult time in this day and age. Like in many spiritual ways, we're on a much higher level to be able to resist and to be living in this world. Not as we resist, but to be able to living in this world with all this distraction, with all of its shadows and smoke and mirrors of what's good and not so good. Like it was easier to differentiate that back in the day, thousands of years ago. But as time's gone by, things have gotten a lot more enmeshed with one another. It's a lot harder to dissect what is good for us and what is not, what's good for our soul and what is not. For me, it's really less about what everybody else is doing. For so long, I've tried to appease that and fit into that, but it's only brought me to pain and discomfort and like disassociation to my own self. And so this relationship between me and God is personal. And you know what? I could go ahead and look back at my full name is Avram Avinu. My name is Avram Meir. And like, especially over this trip that we just took together, Kayla, with storytellers in Israel, like it reignited my passion and my desire to reconnect with that part of myself, Avraham. And who was Avram? Avram was the first Jew, the first man. He looked up at the stars, looked at the sun, he looked at the moon, and he looked at his fellow, and he's like, wow, like this is not, like I can't just pray to the sun. I just can't pray to the earth. There's something beyond. Like he questioned the status quo, and he went on his own journey, to go ahead and to discover what it means to be in connection with God, to be in connection with plants and animals and people. Like, what would that be? Not just to look and check off a box, but he questioned everything. And he went on his journey, and that's what I get to do, and that's what we all get to do, and to keep questioning, until our last breath, until we transition. Because once we get too comfortable, I think it's an opportunity for us to really decide, like, okay, what else is out there?
Well, first of all, it's really honorable that you weren't just going along with everyone else and doing things on the side to be deceitful and kind of go against the community, and just took your own path. So I definitely commend you for doing, what was right for you and like listening to yourself. It's not easy to do that, but I would love to learn a little bit more about like the tools that you're speaking of and like what you used to establish or reestablish this relationship with God. Like for people that might be listening that are like, God hasn't been there, it's not working for me. How do you find that deeper relationship, that purpose, and be able to lead a better, purposeful, driven life?
Yeah, I mean, I would say these technologies and modalities have been around for thousands of years, and in our Jewish traditions, breath, meditation, connection with nature, getting your feet on the ground, have been incredible, powerful tools to like really go inwards. And I mean, just using the modality of breath, for example, the word for breath is neshima, and the word in Hebrew for soul is neshama, and they both come from the same root word. And so, which in Kabbalistic terms means like they're very interconnected. And anybody who's taken any time, a moment to just breathe deeply, let alone taking 5, 10, 23, an hour of breathing with intention, will have an incredible psychedelic experience. They get to, or a type of deep insight within themselves just by using their own breath, just by using their own breath. Like, and we get to get to pray in that way. And I've rediscovered like prayer, beyond just like this prayer from reading from those book, the Siddur, very, very special. but like just finding other ways to pray, whether it's through my own words. Rabbi Nachman of Breslau was very active in that kind of way of like going out to the woods, going out to nature. Baal Shem Tov as well, to spend time out in nature and just talking in your own words. You may not be able to read Hebrew, that's okay. You may not want to connect with the transliteration, that's fine. Speak in your own words. Build a connection with God. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just make it personal. Make it personal. Meditation, slowing down, meditating, big way. Being more intentional. Blessing. I used to like avoid making any brachas, any blessings before eating, and blessings afterwards. And then like as I just started to build this relationship, I'm like, why not? Like, maybe I don't want to say the Hebrew blessing. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But like I can just take this moment of gratitude and like thank everybody that was involved. Thank the animal. Thank the farmers. Thank God. Thank God I had the means to be able to buy this food. Like just a moment of gratitude, and afterwards, like wow, I feel full. Like how I've traveled the world, I've seen poverty firsthand. Like it's intense. How lucky I am to have this plate of food. Just like just incorporating these rituals, these technologies to slow down, bringing gratitude. It's such a beautiful thing that we get to do. Which I see a lot of my friends who grew up religious, who got burned by it. Who I feel bad for them because I feel like there's like a sort of missing out that they have that they don't get to have.
Because they've gone so far away from it?
They got so far, but also they have such a aversion from these technologies now, like these ceremonies that we get to have, because they've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. But if one gets to keep questioning, like, okay, how could I fill up my life? If my life is lack of meaning, yes, I'm making some money, yes, I feel comfortable physically, but there's still a void there. I would highly recommend like slow down, do some breath work. Go and spend some time in nature, have an honest conversation with yourself, and like a exercise that we do on these retreats sometimes, especially with people who have a really tough relationship with God or the God they grew up with. We have one of the easy exercises that someone can do at home is write a letter and fire that God. Fire that God and write a new letter to the new God that you wish to bring on. And it's not idol worship. I'm not talking about like taking some sort of device and like praying to like some sort of like, physical thing. Yeah. I'm saying is like really let go of the descriptions of this painful or like old God that you were taught to believe in that only brings pain and discomfort to you. And redecide, like, what kind of God do you want to believe in? What kind of, like, and add some adjectives, and then write to that, and like, hey, I'm so sorry, I've been so far away from you. Like, I know you got it. Now we're, depending on when this will be brought of release, but right now we're in the month of Elul, and it says that the king is in the field, the God is in the field, and like we get to like have this like easy act. We always do, but like it's this terminology that was used. Like we have access now to the King, to the Almighty, to the Creator in a very easy way. Like just like go out to the field, like hang out. Just like chill, hang out. It doesn't have to be so intense. It doesn't have to be so complicated, sophisticated. Yeah. Within your own words, breathe, meditate. Take some time, be honest. Honesty is key. There's no one you have to impress, just like open yourself up to a pipeline.
You're like the prime example of taking what works for you in Judaism and implementing that in your day to day. For people that may be struggling with that and like what practices like they resonate with most, like throughout this journey for you, like what did you find brought you closer to like those practices that you maybe grew up learning?
Yeah, some things that I'm like reconnecting to that I really is prayer, in traditional prayer as well, like from the Siddur, from the prayer book. There's certain prayers that some of those like codes that are really connecting with me and like open me up, in that way. Elements of Shabbos, is.
So you don't keep Shabbos?
I keep Shabbos in a way that not fully in the way that I grew up in yet, or in that way, but I do connect with the spirit of Shabbos and like what that is, and I really appreciate and I want to grow more in that. Mm-hmm. That's a desire of mine. I see the power of that and what that does for me. But yes,
you now have a beautiful apartment. You can start hosting some Shabbat dinners here, hopefully, Meir. Hopefully I'll be invited to one.
You were invited.
And you know what? We'll have to use one table to get our food.
Oh.
Make sure we're nourished properly.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of One Table, but...
What's One Table about?
I use them for all my Shabbat dinners. It's a website, a nonprofit organization where they'll actually help sponsor part of your dinner, depending on how many people you bring to your table. So it's just an easy way. It doesn't have to be a formal dinner. So
all right,
we'll talk about it. But
Let's
we'd love
get
to
it.
host here. I'll host my own Shabbat here.
Please,
Thanks,
let's
Meir.
go. One
Yeah.
table, Kayla, bring your friends. We'll do it here. We got the space for it. I love it. Yes, I mean, that's what Shabbos is all about, right?
Bringing people together.
Bringing people together, community, day of rest, connection with self, family, God. I mean, it's a incredible, beautiful technology. Thank you, Hashem, for that. You know, and like, so I'm tapping more into that. And then there's and there's other things that that externally may not look like a religious Jew, but internally there's instead there's 10 commandments, and there's 5 of them. They're split into 2. 5 of them are between man and man, right? Don't kill, don't steal, don't do adultery, so on. And then there's 5, and the other 5 are connected between man and God. And I sometimes we get construed, believe in one God, don't make idols, and so on and so forth. And sometimes in this physical plane, when I say we, community, people tend to judge on the external rather than the internal. And somehow along the way, there has become this ladder of point systems of what mitzvah, what commandment, and what way of being is more important than the other. And I don't abide by that. I don't abide by that point system at all. It goes back to what I feel like is internally true. And then we get to listen to our neshama, our soul. And as long as I'm growing, I'm not the same person I was yesterday or a year ago. I'm growing this movement, then great, fantastic. People want to put people in boxes, and we're not meant to be boxes. So I look at myself just like in business, and just like in any part of my life, I try to not compare myself to others, what other people are doing, but look at myself and okay, have I grown somewhat from last Rosh Hashanah, from last year? Am I feeling closer and more connected to God? Am I being more hospitable and more kind to myself and others? Awesome. That is the way. That is the Torah way. And so that's what I'm up to. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And how do you preserve your energy? You have so much of it, and you can easily give it to so many. Yeah, no.
Kayla.
Not
you got a lot of energy.
You think I have energy?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You're like a ray of sunshine.
You and I or me and you, I'm not speaking properly, but on the trip we were both clashing, not clashing, in the best way possible.
Yeah.
You were both the energetic.
100%. We were the ruach, the counselors.
We were the MCs.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally.
We did good.
The dance motivators, Meir and Apostle. The bar mitzvah.
That's right. Throw it down.
You did wear that hat as well.
For sure. I did. Bar mitzvah motivators, for sure. I still, I do that now for corporate events. That's fun.
You do? Oh,
yeah,
that's so fun.
Yeah. I go in, I do holiday parties.
That's my dream job, just to be a personal hype woman for someone.
So much fun.
That's really fun.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever bored, you can always give me.
Let me know if you ever need if you need any help.
Yeah. For sure.
Help. I'd be your girl. But yeah, how do you what I like to say is, how do you protect your peace? That's been my motto recently, is protecting your energy, protecting your peace. It's very difficult. There's a lot of noise, a lot of people asking you for things. We were just in Israel. Everyone's like, Meir Kay, Meir Kay.
Yeah.
It's just you could give your time to a lot of people. So how do you make sure that you're devoting your energy where it's deserved?
Yeah, well, the power of no is really powerful. I used to say yes to a lot of things, so I say no. I mean, of course, someone's coming over to me on the street, I'm stoked for it. I'll say yes to that selfie, to that connection. But jobs or certain elements of maybe going hanging out or going out to certain things, I'm more easy to say no than I used to say yes, and it makes the yes more powerful. Also, talking about traditional technologies, ancient technologies, the mikvah. I love jumping to the ocean, and I love going to the mikvah as purification. And I really feel energetically that I go into the ocean and I come out, I feel lighter, and especially after retreats, there's a lot of energy there, a lot of energy being moved and being taken on. We have, me and the facilitators, we have a tradition. We go right afterwards, we literally go beeline to the ocean, to the beach, and we jump in and we go for a great dinner. And it's a big transition. So I utilize that. I also just spend more time, I spend time with myself. I have I live by myself, and that's intentional. To have my own peace, to be able to come back and to retreat, and I'm a lot more conscious as how much I'm giving, to also give space and time for me to revamp. And back in the day when I was my teens and 20s, I had no concept of self and body and connection. Oh, I'm hungry right now, I haven't eaten all day. I'm a lot more, I feel more in tune to giving myself what I need, nourishing myself well, sleeping better, and setting better boundaries, as to
Difficult.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But
and that's where we get to do that, especially for the people who have such incredible high energy, and there's high lights. When we have a light, all types of things get attracted to that light. And so we have to make sure to preserve that light.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to do. I very much so overcommit myself and feel drained quite often. So I'm personally working on how to protect my energy. So I figured I would ask you that one.
Okay, got you. And have you done anything that's working for you?
No, not yet. I wish I had something insightful to say.
All right.
Because I'm still working through that. I tend to just overcommit, and then I'm always...
Why do you feel like you need to commit, though?
I think I'm a bit of a people pleaser in that way.
What's the payoff? Like, how does that make you...
Right, it's not going to benefit me in any way. To feel exhausted at the end of a week because I didn't have enough time for myself or for the things that I want to get done.
Is there a certain pattern, like a certain ask that you get that you keep saying yes to that you don't want to?
I just feel like, honestly, being in Miami, like, my social life has never been more alive, which is incredible.
Right.
And like coming off of this trip being in Israel, like, like the community, like we were just talking about it. We're like, should we make Aliyah? Should we stay in Florida? Like,
seriously.
We have a lot of questions right now. But I think that's what's so amazing about being here and potentially being in Israel is like the community is so, so strong. So I always feel like there's endless options and things to do. And it's like the plethora of choice. And it's also just like, I'm very grateful to have a really great support system and friend group down here. And I don't want to like miss out on things. So I need to get better personally at just knowing when to say no and knowing myself and knowing like what's going to bring me energy versus drain me. Because a lot of things, even as an extrovert, like they're draining and you still need time to recharge. So I think I'm aware of it. I just need to implement a practice that'll help me say no a little bit better.
Totally. It's like, that FOMO, like the fear of missing out, on things, but like also I think the greater fear is like missing out on yourself, losing oneself in those obligations or in those yeses, but it's a journey and and I get that. That's part of the reason why actually I moved to Fort Lauderdale. It's a little more quiet.
From the distraction.
Yeah, it's a little more. Yeah, it's a little more quieter. The energy here is a little more subtle. I could, drive down to Miami when needed. But I feel like that's also part of the way of just like giving myself more space and more time to focus on to like, what do I want, truly for my highest good and focus on that.
Yeah. So what does Meir want right now, truly, and how are you feeling coming off of? We're talking right now. For context for people listening, 2 days, you just landed back in the States 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And that transition from being in Israel to being back in the States is pretty tough.
It is hard. And as we talked, like that question, like, wow, before I was so excited to come back to my new apartment and like my car and my stuff and my routine. And I came back, I'm like, man, should I be like living in Israel right now? Like, so there's definitely, I'm coming off on a high. So inspired and invigorated from my time in Israel. I connected with the people, with the land in a new way, my identity, creativity. I'm like, thank God, I'm so excited for all that. And it's a good question to have, like, ooh, maybe Israel, and it's cool that's planted. Yeah. And for the time being, I'm also and I'm also stoked to be back here because I have such a massive, like, I think I have such a purpose and mission out here, which I'm so like ingrained, I'm so aligned with, which is like the people I get to work with on a one-on-one basis or group basis through workshops and retreats. Jewish men's retreats, Jewish men's and women's retreats, breathwork workshops, and coaching, and like I'm loving that, as well as getting back into the content game and creating like really meaningful experiences for corporate America. So like I'm really I'm feeling more and more aligned than ever before, where like I feel like in the past parts of myself were very lit up, or parts of myself were shut down or unknown to me at the time. Where now at this stage of my life, I feel like I'm just like starting to like really fell into my full power. I'm just starting to peak, where like all the different parts of myself, the deep, deep mystical part of Meir, the light and energetic Meir, the creative, yet the intellectual, like all, and the spiritual, they're all sort of coming together in into these offerings where I get to show up fully as myself without having to hide any parts of myself because I'm afraid I may lose business or someone may judge me. Like now I just feel more fully embodied than ever before.
It's a great feeling to feel just like fully confident in who you are, not being afraid to hide. And that's incredible. Well, I hope to be able to be a guest at one of your retreats in the future when you do a female retreat or a co-ed retreat.
Yeah, totally.
So what's coming up for you in terms of like work, retreats? What's going on?
Yeah, right now I've got a couple things on the pipeline. Thanks for asking, Kayla.
Of course, Meir.
I have a breathwork facilitation certification retreat coming up. So I'm certifying people to become breathworkers, men and women. I'm also having a Jewish men's retreat called Adama. That's coming up in September. Another one in December and March. And then I also have ongoing breathwork workshops, which I do online and in person here in Florida. I travel to New York and LA as well. So like those are like the top things going on right now. And as I mentioned, I'm also have like a really exciting gig coming up in New York where I'm going to be emceeing a corporate event. And that's like one of my goals this year is to get more involved in corporate events, to make more meaningful, fun connections on site or off site for corporate America.
Well, corporate America could certainly use someone like you. We all need to feel a little bit more grounded, and I think just implementing the tools that you are speaking of can be really difficult for people. I mean, personally myself, I've had a hard time getting into meditation and breath work. So bringing that to a corporate setting, maybe you'll have to talk to my corporate company as well.
Yeah.
They are an Israeli company. So they would love to have you, I'm sure.
Let's go.
Mani Shma, Kapara, what's up?
Let's do it.
Well, thanks so much, Meir, for being here. And where can people find you?
Find me on all the socials, Meir Kay, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Moses, Jesus, we're not sure which one, but
Old Jewish men, finding their way to God.
amazing. Okay, toda rabba.
Toda rabba. Thank you so much.